everybody, Carolina Jordan here with Remax Inspire in beautiful Somerville, South Carolina, and it is June, and June theme is reset, renew, and reopened. And one of the things that we were thinking about as far as the mortgage industry or the homeowner industry goes on reset, renew, and reopen is taking those first steps. Some of you have been renting and you feel like, okay, now is the time for me to be able to own my own home. So today I'm with my wonderful friend and great loan officer, Dan Crance. He is with Classic Home Mortgage, and he is going to talk to us about some of those first steps. So obviously the first step is come talk to me, but right after that, I will tell you, you need to get pre-qualified. And that part, we move over to Dan, and he's going to talk to us today about some of those first steps that people need to take to be able to qualify for that loan to get a house. How are you today, Dan?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me. Finally, it's June. It seems like this year with all the stuff going on just keeps dragging on, but happy to be in June. June's always a good real estate month, and doing well. Happy with how things are going.
Awesome. Okay, then. So somebody calls me and they're like, we're ready. We want to start looking at homes. And I'll be like, all right. So the first thing that we need to do is find out what your buying power is. Let's talk to Dan. So what does Dan do at that point?
Yeah. So let's talk about that statement of we're ready and what makes us ready. You know, what makes that buyer ready to buy a house. So, you know, several things come into play here. The fact that, you know, do they have money in the bank? Do they have good credit? You know, are they at a good point in their lease to move, in their life to move? So what does all that ready look like? So ideally, when a borrower would come to me, I would sit with them, and this is my office actually. It's at 134 East. I love to sit down with buyers and talk with them about, you know, what's your goal here? You know, do you want a house? Do you want 3 bedrooms? Do you need 4? You know, are you upsizing, downsizing? But you know, what are your dreams? Because, you know, owning a home is a dream. You know, if it's your second or third home, it's just something that we do. But when it's your first home, it's really your dream. And how do we get someone ready to do that? So that conversation would probably might not even involve taking an application. You know, I'll talk with them about money in the bank. You know, typically first-time home buyers, a lot of them will go with an FHA loan. You know, so do they have, you know, $7,000 in the bank for their down payment on a $200,000 FHA loan? So then, you know, that'll tell me whether they're just now thinking impulsively to buy a house, or have they been saving $7,000? Because I don't know what the percentage is, but I'd guess that less than, you know, 30% of America has $7,000 in a savings account. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think, you know, that's it's really hard in the world to save money for most people. So, you know, so do they have money? You know, have they seen their credit? Do they have a credit monitoring app? Now, I'm not a proponent of the score on any of these monitoring apps, but a lot of them have great information about what your credit actually looks like. Mm-hmm. You know, so whether it's Credit Karma, Sesame, MyFICO, the Discover, you know, and one of these credit cards, you know, if you can see the trades, then you know the information that's going in to determine your credit. So you know, have they dealt with that? Have they dealt with money in the bank? Are they both on the same page?
Yeah.
You know, have they had the conversations of, we have to have a yard because we want a big dog, or we don't want a yard at all because we're cat people and we don't like to cut the grass? You know, so, you know, it's easy to say, okay, I'm ready. And then they kind of come to us, you mm-hmm. and me, yeah. to help them figure out what they really want in life. So, you know, we're good at helping them navigate, you know, that process, but, you know, that's stuff that they need to be thinking about. So, you know, so when they say they're ready, are they really ready? Or does this sound like a good idea and we're going to, you know, do this on a whim and quickly? But that would be the first process. So, you know, you send them to me, I get them in a position, I get them thinking about the questions that they might not have come up with already.
Mm-hmm.
What school district do you want to be in? Even if you don't have kids,
Yeah.
you know, as you know, the price of a house, there is some direct impact on the school district where the house is, you know, and is it an up and coming school district? Is it a deteriorating school district? You know, what's it going to be when you want to sell it? It's just like any other investment that you're going through. You know, if we look at our stock market right now, our money's down, but, you know, does that really mean anything? Because what's important is when you take that money out of the stock market, how much is there?
Yeah.
Not how much is there today, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that's kind of the stuff that it takes to think about when trying to get someone ready to buy a house. So does that kind of make sense about?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the other things that I always ask them is it's not so much of what you want, is what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes when you start making them think about it, like they start to prioritize those needs instead of their wants. And we can get them like on the right path to get them to the house they're gonna be comfortable in and everything. And I feel like the same thing with the mortgage. Like sometimes like they get all excited, oh my God, like I got approved for X or Y amount, but I can only really pay this much a month. And that's where like you and I come into play to make them realize what's important and like what really is gonna let them have a life after buying a house.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell, especially young couples, so for instance, they come to me and they say, hey, my lease is up in 6-8 months and we want to buy a house when my lease is up. And then I'll say, okay, well, how much are you paying for that little apartment that you're renting? And they say, oh, $900. And I said, okay, great. I said, you know, how much do you want to pay on a mortgage payment? And they're like, well, we don't want to go over $1,800. I'm like, okay, so this is what you need to do. On the first of the month, when you pay your $900 in rent, you need to put $900 in savings, because that's going to teach you what spending $800 a month is going to feel like. Don't do it in 2 different paychecks. Do it in the same pay period. You're going to pay your rent on the first, put that $900 in the savings on the first also. It does 2 things for you. It lets them know what it feels like to have an $1,800 house payment. It builds their savings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it really is a win-win for them. But what happens sometimes is, I love it when people take my advice. They'll come to me and then they'll say, hey, you know, we talked about $1,800, but we really only want $1,600.
Yeah.
We had a tough time coming up with that other $200. You know, so, but it really will, if they stick to that thought process, it'll really let them know what that $1,800 feels like on a month-to-month basis. And you're right. And you know, when was the last time that these people looked at their bank account to find out how much money they eat? You know, how much money goes to fast food and to eating out, and where they spend their money, and you know, will they still be able to do that with an $1,800 house payment? So, yeah, there are a lot of moving parts to this, and trying to get everything to line up to when is the perfect time for them to buy. It's kind of like, when's the perfect time to have a child? I mean, when's the perfect time to sell? It's, you know, is there ever really a perfect time?
No.
You just kind of need to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate all this. Great. And I actually stole that from you. Like every time I talk to my buyers and they're like, okay, we're getting there. I'm like, Well, think about how much you want to pay a month and then start saving that extra money and see if you can live off whatever is left. Because that's really what I'm going to tell you. Because I hate when people go into homes and they barely are making the payment and then they don't have anything else to live. Like they cannot get the things that they want or they might need. And like with home ownership, it becomes like maintenance for the house. And since that, if they break, that's part of home ownership and that costs money. So I want to make sure that they get on the right thing. And your advice is just gold. So I thank you so much, Dan. So if anybody has any questions for you or would like to set up an appointment, how can they reach you?
Yeah, great. So this is a picture of my office. It's at 134 East Richardson, 1 block off of Hutchinson Square in downtown Somerville. You can get me at www.dcymm.com, which stands for Dan Crance, Your Mortgage Man. I've got a Facebook page as well, and my number is 843-478-5612. How about you, Carolina? How can I get
Well, yeah, if you have any questions for us, if you cannot reach Dan, I'll be happy to connect you with him. My phone number is 843-900-4449, and you can find us at lowcountryhomesale.com, and I would love to work with you. Thank you so much, Dan, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, thanks for having me, Carolina. Bye now.